Hello, I'm back.
And we were just talking about going from up to where again?
Yeah, between my freshman and sophomore years that summer, I was invited by my grandparents, my paternal grandparents in Houghton, to visit them. So I did, and it was a very eventful summer. Uh, I learned how to drive on my grandfather's Model T. My first driver's license was a Michigan driver's license. Uh, I got a Social Security number that year because, as I remember, I had a job. I can't remember what the job was, but I do think I had a job and I had to have a Social Security number. I met the girl next door and we had kind of sort of a relationship,
Hmm.
even though,
What
you
was
know,
her name?
I don't remember. I just remember that she was close by and we drove around in the Model A, which was a hoot. Even then, it was rather retro. And but my grandparents asked me what I would like as a going away present from Houghton. And so what I said is I would like a Zenith FM radio. And Zenith is a company that used to make radios and televisions. And this radio was like a foot wide and about 8 inches high. It was a big radio. But it was my constant companion through many years. I didn't actually get rid of it until like 25 or 30 years later. But all through high school, I had discovered classical music, and I used to go to the Baltimore Public Library. And at those days, back in the 50s, I guess, uh, they had what were called listening rooms, and you went in there with the records that you had checked out, and you could listen to the records. And Franklin, my husband, has had the same experience in the library. And I guess they don't do that in libraries anymore. But, records were big. I mean, they were, you know, very big objects. And I remember one of the records I loved was Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. And it must have been that emotional impact that got me. But anyway, this FM radio was a very big deal for me. And I listened to it all through college. I liked college. I wasn't a very good student. I was a B student, probably. But I, enjoyed it. I didn't, I studied, but, not too much. And I didn't have anybody at home saying to me, we're really rooting for you, we're really wanting you to study. When I applied to college, my mother said, "Why do you want to go to college? I mean, nobody goes to college." But I decided that I wanted to go to college. And so
Johns Hopkins is a great school, obviously.
I had a choice of two or three different schools: Western Maryland College, St. John's College in Annapolis, the Great Books College, and Hopkins. And everybody said, "Oh, well, you ought to go to Hopkins." And luckily for me, I got a scholarship from the Guggenheim Foundation, the Guggenheim War Orphans Foundation, because my father had died as a result of the war. My father was never in any battle, but they decided that somehow his cancer was contracted during the war, so that qualified. And so I was a war orphan. And back then, when I started Hopkins, tuition was $600 a semester, which even then was not much. And
What were you studying? What was your major?
Biology. I was a biology major, and I had a minor in chemistry. And I was planning to be a biochemist, and that's what I did become eventually.
And did you do anything else on campus?
I was in the Barnstormers, which was the drama group. The plays that the drama group put on were in the barn, which was an old barn on campus. And I remember being in a number of plays, among them R.U.R., Rossum's Universal Robots, and Room Service, which was a play by George F. Kaufman, which the Marx Brothers made into a very successful movie. So those are a couple of plays I was in. And I don't know, I didn't do a whole lot in college, I guess. One summer I was at a biological station on Solomon's Island in Chesapeake Bay, where my job was to count the rings on fish scales, because by doing that you could tell the age of the fish. So I spent most of the summer counting fish scales, which is, it was fun, and not so much counting the fish scales, but, being on this island with all the other college kids, and that was fun. I trying to remember how I spent some of my other summers, and I really don't remember clearly now how that was. But I graduated in '56, and by that time I had a fellowship at the University of California in Berkeley. In my senior year, my mother and George, who were then in Olympia, Washington, had divorced. And their divorce had a very profound negative effect on me. It really sort of almost like a nervous breakdown, I think. And, I don't know why. It was sort of like the one bit of stability I had was sort of dissolving. Mm. But it was hard. It was difficult for me. And so I struggled and had difficulties. But I went on between my senior year in college and my first year of graduate school at Berkeley. I spent the summer in Friday Harbor, Washington.
Up in the San Juan Islands. Okay.
Am I done?
No, you can. I'm just, whenever you want to see natural transition.
That's a good spot to stop.
Okay, let's pause there then.